Hey everyone! Welcome to the Happy Flosser podcast. My name is Billy Luntz. I am your host, and I'm here to talk to you about all things dental hygiene to support you on your journey through the dental hygiene program. It is absolutely fantastic to be with you on this rainy day. I hope you're making your own sunshine today. And I am certainly having an easier time making my own sunshine today because I have an amazing, sparkly guest. Linda Straub Bruce is with me today. And Linda is going to share some really amazing things. She's had a great dental hygiene journey, and not to be a spoiler, but we'll just let her tell us a little bit about herself. Welcome, Linda.
Thanks, Billy. I am so honored to be here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you are one fantastic hygienist. So I'm happy that you've been able to take the time to share some of your knowledge and experience with our students and listeners.
Great, great. I can give you a little bit of background on my dental hygiene journey and how I got from A to Z, from where I started to where I am today.
Oh, wow. You made it all the way to Z?
Well, my current Z, I should say.
There you go. I feel like I'm still in the middle of the alphabet, but yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, sure. Well, from the very beginning, even as a small child, I just felt compelled to be in healthcare. I knew I wanted a career where I could help people, but I also wanted to build long-term relationships with them. And my childhood hygienist actually inspired me to think about dental hygiene. And I don't recall it, but my mother and my sister always said when I was 3 years old, I walked out of my first dental appointment and said, Mom, that's what I want to be. I want to be a dental. And I didn't even say the word hygienist right. I don't even know how I said it. And they just laughed and said, oh, whatever, but it stuck. I really thought about it. And then in high school, I thought about it seriously. I went in and I spoke with her. She was amazing. She was with me my whole childhood, all the way till I went to college. And I just thought that was fantastic. Here was this amazing healthcare professional taking me through these appointments. I probably wasn't the most cooperative kid at times, and I loved the relationship that we developed. I loved the preventative aspect of her profession. And I just decided that's what I'm going to do. So I applied to the University of Pittsburgh School of Dental Medicine, and I graduated in 1989. And I will tell you, I have loved my career since day one, regardless of what specific element I'm participating in my career. I have just loved it since day one. So I am very passionate about dental hygiene, and I think it's just such a fantastic career. Those long-term relationship with patients really drew me in. It just offered that unique blend of science, which I loved, prevention, which really made me feel it was going to be a fulfilling career because I was making a difference in my patients' lives. And the connection, not just with your coworkers and, the dentists that you work with, but those patients. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know generations of patients over the years.
Wow. That really resonates with me. The long-term relationships are something that you really can't describe until you're in it, you know?
That's true. Yeah. And to see someone, especially those patients that may be tobacco users or, be struggling with getting their diabetes under control, and not just the personal relationships, but to develop and watch that difference that you can make in those patients' lives develop over time and just see the real change. I don't know if there's other healthcare professions that can offer such a fantastic experience like that. I just really, to me, that was at the core of clinical hygiene for me and what drew me in. And when I entered in the late 80s, the profession was very different than it was today. And it's also been exciting to see the evolution of the career over time. I've been in it long enough to remember when we weren't seen as integral healthcare providers. Now, with the oral systemic connection and everything we know, it's just so important to advocate to ensure that every hygienist knows their worth and finds their voice in their career.
Oh, I love that. That really is the key to avoiding the things that we see so much of, like burnout and lack of career satisfaction. Really looking at the growth that we've had, both you and I, in our profession. I don't practice clinical hygiene anywhere near the same way that I did when I graduated, and that's because of lots of changes that have occurred and based on evidence. I love that. That's a great point to make, Linda.
Sure, sure. I no longer see patients in a clinical setting anymore, but I still feel very connected. Um, Over my 36 years, I've had roles in education, beyond the clinical aspect, education, operations, finance, leadership. The diverse avenues that we can pursue are very exciting. One of the roles that I have is I'm a clinical preceptor with fourth year dental students at a dental school. And that to me, just holds that little, I feel like I'm tethering in clinical care because I sit down chairside with those students, with those patients, and have those experiences. And I only do it part time, but I don't want to give it up because that's my clinical piece. And it just makes me feel, just whole as a hygienist. But my role in operations and financial management also developed out of my role as a clinical hygienist. I became interested in the business of dental health care and understanding what made the dental business succeed, because it's essential to understanding the business of healthcare to make sure that your business survives and thrives to be there to serve those patients. And I'm just honestly, I'm a lifelong learner. I left dental hygiene school and I immediately went in to get a bachelor's in education. I received my master's in health services administration, and a recent milestone is I just completed my doctorate in healthcare administration, and my dissertation was on workforce retention and satisfaction pieces in dental hygiene, because, of course, dental hygiene is my passion, right? Just that being that lifelong learning, every degree, I co-authored a book, that curiosity just drives you, to just consume all elements of the profession.
Your excitement and enthusiasm about the profession comes right out in your voice when you're speaking, Linda. Um, Tell me a little bit about what you discovered in the research, because that's a really hot topic. What were the main nuggets that came out? I know how much research, how much time it takes, but what were the key takeaways for you?
Sure, sure. Well, just to lay the foundation, my study was a mixed methods. I did I used a validated survey instrument, the job satisfaction survey. It's like a 9 facet, 36 question Likert scale survey. I had a nice population of hygienists. I focused just on my state of Pennsylvania, just to kind of give a little definition there, uh, because we know that the regulatory scope can be different from state to state. So I wanted to have that consistency piece. I had approximately 350 participants, so that was fantastic for statistical significance. And then I also had the qualitative piece. I did two focus group sessions, which kind of expanded on that quantitative piece. So it was exciting. So you got the survey portion, which is very standardized, but you got the open dialogue of the focus group. So I felt like I really got a great mix of feedback and research and data to jump off of. So of course, everybody talks first about, well, it's compensation, pay and benefits, right? Compensation matters. We all have bills to pay. Wouldn't it be great if we could just do our passion for free and, everything was taken care of? But what I found was autonomy, respect, meaningful relationships with both colleagues and patients, recognition, and most importantly, growth opportunities are even more critical. So it was interesting that I found, compensation and benefits is relevant, but it is not the end all be all. Hygienists want to feel valued. They want to feel they have opportunities and not stuck in a role without mobility that doesn't really reflect their intensive training, their skill set, or their potential. We're healthcare providers. We're not just teeth cleaners. And if a hygienist finds herself or himself in a system that doesn't reflect that, it wears on them. Workplace culture, micromanagement, lack of flexibility, those are also key pieces that cause dissatisfaction. If there's a disconnect between that evolving patient care demands and coupled with stagnant practice models, that can add stress. Stress can lead to frustration and professional stagnation. Stagnation is dangerous. It drains your motivation. It makes you feel invisible in your own career. And whenever I go and speak with students or I mentor a new hygienist, I always say we're always in one of two states. Either we are stagnating or we're growing. You can't exist in the two spaces at the same time. But on the flip side, there is so much potential that dental hygiene offers for growth, through continuing education, leadership, mentorship. When you have that growth, their job satisfaction just soars. The variety available to us today is incredible. You have clinical, public health, corporate, education, consulting, research, industry, operations. There is so much to keep us engaged, fresh, and fulfilled professionally. But the most surprising piece that I found in my dissertation research was, regardless of the dissatisfaction pieces that a hygienist may be experiencing, 95% felt exceptional meaningfulness in the job that they are doing for their patients, and stated that those important patient and colleague relationships were mitigating factors. So, maybe they didn't have the best compensation. Maybe they wish they had better benefits, but the job that they're doing and the relationships that they were building were enough to mitigate those dissatisfaction pieces to make them feel fulfilled.
Wow. Linda, I think you just put into words every emotion I've ever felt personally, and also every conversation that I've had with my colleagues across like every hygienist can probably relate to your research findings. That's remarkable. You put it all together in a really concise way. I
Right.
mean, we've all had jobs where we're frustrated or feeling stuck, but yet we love our patients and we love the people we work with. So we it's always this weights and balances,
Sure.
and hygienists do want to feel seen, heard, and valued. Uh, wow. I think I've talked about some of these things on my podcast myself, but I have a sister who's a nurse, and oftentimes if somebody has an issue, they call her instead of me. And I'm like, we have the same training. What is happening? I know the
Right.
medications,
Sure. Sure.
I've grown
Right.
past that, but well said. That's amazing research.
Well, I feel that it puts into validated data what we all know in our hearts. It's those relationships we build with our patients and the teams that we work with. They are powerful sources of joy. All those connections are often what anchor us. So if you have a tough day, that helps you get back to your why, to help be there. And we're hygienists, so I think that there's a type that goes into dental hygiene. I think a lot of us are perfectionists. We don't like a particular F word, failure, right? Okay. But we have to recognize burnout's a signal. It's not a failure. It is, just in the background telling you that something needs to change. But we also have to remember that if something needs to change, we deserve to be able to change it, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. This is such great information for students that are about to enter the workforce and for maybe, younger grads who are feeling like they've just got into the career. How could they be feeling this way? How do they advocate for themselves to kind of get the career fulfillment that they're looking for?
Sure, sure. Well, the transition from being a dental hygiene student into practice, that is a major change. Practice, the technical procedures that you might be doing may not differ. You're probably taking a bite wing very similar similar way than you did in school, but just the practice environment and the flow is very different. So I would say number one, be easy on yourself.
Mm.
Know that you have that transition period and expect to have that learning curve. Just be ready for it, be accepting of it. You know, explore new avenues and opportunities and communicate if you need help. Typically it's just sometimes you're sitting there and you're struggling in your day, how wondering how you're going to see, maybe in dental hygiene school you saw one or two patients here and there, and then now you have many more on your schedule. How am I going to get through this schedule and stay on time? Mentorship can be a very valuable thing. Hopefully you are in a team that offers great mentorship with somebody that has experience, and just hear your voice and speak out. I'm struggling with this. What tips or tools do you have for time saving or staying on schedule or dealing with a difficult patient? Just identify those stressors or those points that make you nervous or something that you might be struggling with, and speak out to it. Mentorship can be a very powerful thing. So can engaging in continuing education courses. Sometimes you graduate from dental hygiene school and the last thing you want to do is sign up to take a course, but understanding that even though you may not need CE right away, CE is so valuable to you because it provides learning. You connect and network with mentors at CE events. You learn about advocacy. There's so many opportunities to learn something new and speak up and speak out and get great feedback. Um, Continuing education courses can often be very interactive, and you can learn from them, but ask for what you need. Do you need a little bit more flexibility in your schedule? Do you need different tools of the trade or instruments? Do you need more autonomy? Do you need a little bit of guidance? So not being able to just remembering to speak out and speak up where you might be struggling. You don't know what someone has to offer to you unless you ask for that help.
Yeah. That's great advice. I can say as an early clinician, I was afraid to ask people that I knew would know the answer for fear of being judged. I wanted them to think I knew what I was doing, even if I didn't know what I knew what I was doing. I just didn't know how I was going to accomplish it all. But I would say to my younger self, just ask the questions, because what I didn't know is that seasoned hygienist out there wants to mentor you and wants to help you, and it helps them feel fulfilled as well. Would you agree with that, Linda?
I agree 100%. It's not just about helping our patients, it's about helping ourselves and helping our profession. And I don't know a hygienist that isn't there to help.
Yeah.
We're mentors. We're mentors for our patients. We want to help those students transition well. We want those new professionals to love the profession as much as we do, set them up for growth and success.
Yeah, I love that. You just have to, so we are telling you as clinical hygienists, seasoned professionals, to just ask. Just ask everybody you know to help you with whatever struggles you're having. I love that.
And one other comment I'd have on that is, if you have a challenging day, let yourself just acknowledge that stress and set it aside. No one expects you to be perfect day one out of dental hygiene school and see every patient exactly at the moment of their appointment time and finish at that exact end time. Just be easy on yourself. And also remember that challenges are opportunities. Challenges are growth moments. The harder the challenge, the more you grow. So every challenge that you overcome or every barrier that you feel in a successful day that you overcome helps you grow. So that mindset can kind of help you avoid burnout and stay focused on what really matters. And that's just refining, growing, and taking those opportunities to grow.
Oh, I love that, Linda, because not every day is a little bit different, right? We have,
Exactly.
yeah. So challenges turned into opportunities of growth is such a great way to look at a day when you leave the office exhausted, you know?
Right?
And what would you tell yourself as a new graduate entering the field now that you have all of this hindsight knowledge and research behind you?
Right, right. I would tell myself to try to mediate my perfectionism. Starting out, you want to come out, you've got this, you're 100% ready to go. I would tell myself to be more gentle on myself.
Mm.
And honestly, I joined my professional association. I was a student member in school. And then I lapsed early in my career. I would also say connect with professional associations and do it early. That is your group. That was pivotal in my own development. And I wished I had engaged on a deeper level earlier. That professional associations are, in my opinion, critical for development. There are advocates, they open doors, they surround you with mentors that understand your day, your career, your profession better than anyone else can. I would not be here today without my professional journey in organized dental hygiene and also engaging in continuing education, not just the minimal requirements you need to renew your license, but really digging in and taking advantage of opportunities, thinking outside the box, and engaging with those in my career.
Well said, Linda. Well said. I agree with you 100% on that. I really do, because sometimes when you're feeling lost or alone in the operatory, the professional organization is out there doing all the legwork for you outside of the operatory that you don't, sometimes you might not even be aware, but it does impact you on a
Sure.
personal level. Yeah.
And you struck a point there, and that was the most powerful thing for me is I engaged in professional or organizational dental hygiene, probably 10 to 12 years out of school. And at the 10 to 12 year mark, I really felt I knew everything there was to know about my profession. So here I sit 36 years later, now realizing I will never stop learning new things. And there's that saying, it's like peeling the layers of an onion. You peel one back and surprise, there's another one there. I could not believe how much I didn't know,
Mhm.
right? So that fueled my passion to keep learning. And I don't think I will ever stop learning new things about our profession. And we're always in a state of evolution. I mean, we look at the technological changes that we've experienced. And I believe right now, especially with AI, it's going to be exponential going forward. I think we're going to really be progressing in certain ways just very, very quickly. So just staying engaged and learning and accepting that there's so much more out there to learn, and it just fuels your passion. It just keeps you fresh and engaged. You go to a conference, you go to an event, and you just come back feeling like I'm ready to take on the world. It just really refreshes you.
That's absolutely right. I experienced a very similar thing because I felt like I had a pretty good handle on everything I learned in school, and then when I really started learning more in-depth procedures and changes that were going on, and of course a lot of things changed in the last 30 years. uh, I felt as though the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know, and the more I realized I needed to learn more.
Right, right, yeah. It caught me off guard, it's a surprise, but once you realize that, you're like, "Wow," and you want more. Just,
Yes.
somehow it makes you always want to learn more.
Yeah, and that's a really great space to be in, to be honest, when you get there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, Linda, is there any other final thoughts you would like to share with the students and listeners out there before we wrap up?
Well, if I had to give advice to new dental hygiene students entering their career, I would just say keep pushing for that growth. Not just in your mindset, but policy. Advocate for yourself. Whether it's in your practice or as a profession, advocating for your profession. Expanded scope of practice, direct access, license portability. No one's going to hand it to us, on a silver platter. We have to advocate for ourselves. Think of your dental hygiene career not just as a clinical position per se, but understand it's a public health and policy driving career. Stay informed on what's going on with regulations, portability, workforce models. There's several right now that are hot topics. The future will be shaped by those who pay attention and show up. We need to be focused. Speak to your legislators. They want to hear from their constituents. They want to hear your professional voice. Inspire others to advocate too for themselves and for the profession. One of my favorite things to say is we don't need a seat at a table. We need to build our new tables and invite others to them. Today's students really are tomorrow's change agents. So they need to be armed more than with just a curette, but they also have to pick up those tools for those tool belts to move forward.
I love that, Linda. That is so well said. I don't even think I can add to that at all. I think that's awesome. Uh, well said. One thing I will share is that I know it's scary to tell a student to contact their legislators, right? What would you say? I would say stack up some stories because whenever I talk to somebody who is a change agent or a legislator, they want to hear the stories that are connected to the policies we're advocating for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They don't have a clue about what's going on with access to care or struggles that our patients may be experiencing in getting that care that we know they need. They may not understand the limits of portability or maybe restrictive regulatory barriers for us. They want to hear and they want to learn, and hearing from constituents, they love it. It could be as easy as following an email campaign from a professional organization or an advocacy group to reach out to their legislators or making an email or a phone call. You don't have to necessarily have an intimidating sit down with your senator. But, even advocacy day within a professional organization, most states do them. I know here in Pennsylvania, we have an advocacy day at the Capitol and you have breakfast with the legislators. And the first time I did it, I was just kind of a wallflower sitting back and listening. But wow, how empowering and fascinating it was. And the next year, I was right there telling all my legislators what I felt needs to change for our patients and our profession.
Yeah. Well said, Linda. Thank you so much. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
Sure. The best way to reach me is my email, which is lstraub, STRAUB, at velocity.net. and I am all, about helping others. So if there's a student struggling with something and they just need a few words of encouragement, reach out. I'm happy to provide those too.
Excellent. I will put that in the show notes as well for somebody if they would like to get a hold of you. You have so much great advice and great examples on how to implement some of those things. I really appreciate you coming on, Linda.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be here today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so that whenever a new episode launches, you will get a notification so that you can take little steps towards learning all that you need to know for dental hygiene school. Take care, everyone.